Hey guys, welcome to the Wrestling Escape Pod, this brand new episode all about the funniest moments. Of course, I am joined by my co-host with the most, Tommy
Yes.
Toy Travels. How are you, my friend?
I am very sad today.
Very sad. What, for this funniest moments episode?
Yes.
why,
Yes.
why are you sad?
Because nothing is funny anymore.
Nothing is funny. Is that because we're going to talk about the funniest moments and nothing is going to match these moments ever again?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it
This is going to be the peak of humor, peak of podcasting, peak of everything.
Yeah, this is as good as it's ever going to get.
Yeah.
So
That's why it's so sad, because it's the fleeting moment, the ephemeral nature of life condensed into a podcast.
that is a big word.
I went to art school.
Okay. What, do they use big words in art school? How does that?
Yes.
I thought it was all about pictures and paintings.
Yeah, you gotta match big words to the pictures to make yourself seem smart.
Nice. This is really good insider information.
Oh, very insider.
But what it isn't the funniest wrestling moments. So
No.
let's get straight
Yes.
into it. What have you got lined up? What's your first one? What comes comes to mind?
'Cause for me, I like to do personal stuff. I'm not much of a historian, but I feel like it would be remiss to ignore one of the greatest moments of comedy that came out of wrestling, Shockmaster.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was not planned to be funny. He fell through that door. We talked about it on our toy podcast. If people haven't seen that one, they're missing out, but we'll talk about it again. But that's, like, for me, the quintessential comedy moment, because I'm a big fan of physical humor. And to see a man that they're building up as, like, wearing the stormtrooper helmet that they painted silver and sparkly, just fall straight down with the explosions and everything. Perfection, comedy perfection.
It's so good. But then the funniest moments are the ones that aren't meant to happen.
Yes.
And obviously that was not meant to happen. I heard something about that moment. I don't know if you ever heard like some of the backstory on it, but apparently they reinforced the wall, and I don't know why, but they felt a need to reinforce the wall. So they actually put some extra wooden paneling towards the bottom of the wall. I don't know if there'd been a run through and it didn't break properly, or it broke too easy, or I genuinely I don't know, but I know they reinforced it, which is why he easily bursts through the top but doesn't burst through the bottom, because they'd reinforced the bottom and they hadn't reinforced the top. The top broke as it was meant to. The bottom had been reinforced with extra paneling, which is why he goes and falls. That's why he actually falls through. So that's...
And the helmet falls off and he's like, oh my God.
That's right. So we are now actually getting into the physics of the whole thing, but that's... It's such a good moment. For those of you that don't know, this was WCW, and I seem to recall you had the likes of the British Bulldog, you had Sting, you had all these big names. I think Harlem Heat, were they around as well there? And it was all building up to this big match that was going to take place, and they were about to reveal their partner, and they said something like, our partner's going to shock the world. I mean, that's an understatement, isn't it? He did shock the world. He shocked himself. He went bursting through. Down he went, and as you said, the helmet came off. I seem to remember something like Davey Boy saying, oh, he's fell on his arse, or something like
And then, like, after that, they were all like, half of them were trying to be serious, but the other half was just like, there's no way that this is not going to be taken totally as a comedy segment, because this is too much.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they had to drastically change his character after that. I remember he used to come down in like a kind of like I think it was a builder's attire with a hard hat and everything. And he was kind of used more as a comedy character from that point, because there's no way you can take him seriously after that. There's no way you can take him seriously after that. So, yeah. Oh, what a moment! I mean, like that might be it. That might be the end of the podcast. I don't know.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
I don't know. I don't know how we ever better that. It was so great, so great. So one that I've got right. I've got to go big to match that. I've got to go big to match that. Titus World Slide.
That was my number 2.
Oh, was it your number 2? Titus World Slide.
So good.
Again, but the reason why I had to bring that up now is because if we are going to talk about things that weren't meant to happen, because obviously we're going to talk about a lot of great moments that was scripted and was meant to take place. This one absolutely was not. This is Titus O'Neil at the greatest Royal Rumble, running down to the ring, tripping over and sliding straight underneath the ring. It is one of the funniest moments. It might be the most funniest unintentional moment in WWE history.
I'd say 100%, yeah.
And I would say that Shockmaster is the funniest unintentional moment in potentially wrestling history, but certainly WCW history. So I think we're really starting with 2 big guns right there. But yeah, that Titus World Slide. Did you know the world's largest slide is in London, here in the UK? And it is on the site of where the 2012 Olympics were. There was this really weird structure that got built outside of the Olympic Stadium, and they didn't really know what to do with it after. It was like an observation kind of platform. And they didn't really know what to do with it after. So they actually wrapped a slide all around the edge of it. And it turns out that it is the longest slide in the world now. It got opened, I think it was around about 2014, 2015, something like that. But they actually, you can go onto WWE's YouTube channel. They actually made Titus go and visit the world's longest slide. So you can actually see him going down the world's longest slide, all because of Titus World Slide, and the way that he slid under the ring. It's great.
Yeah, I saw it live, and it's one of those things where it was like, I'm so glad that I witnessed that. I'm so glad that moment I was on this earth, because the galaxy has been around for so much time, and I am but just a piece of sand in the ocean. And to be able to witness that, it's something I'm going to tell my theoretical children. No, my 3 children that I have.
3 children, yes.
Yeah. When they're older.
You're not the stepfather. You're the father that stepped up.
I am.
So, yeah, it was brilliant. I got to say, I actually, when we were discussing like doing this episode, it's obviously one of the things you go back to and watch, and it honestly blows my mind how close he was to the center stand under the ring, because obviously you've got the ring, and then in the middle you've got like a leg, if you will, like a metal structure to hold the ring up. He slides kind of between the two, but he is so close to that center strip of metal that he could have gone head first straight into that. It could have gone from being like a really funny moment to like a real tragic one. I don't want to think what it would have been if he'd have just been a few inches over. That could have been an absolute disaster. So,
yeah.
But it wasn't, and it's hilarious. So we're allowed to laugh our heads off. I've got another one for us to throw around. I don't know if you ever saw Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle together in the early 2000s when Brock Lesnar got called up. They kind of hung out with each other because, of course, they've both got that kind of wrestling background. Obviously, Kurt went on to be an Olympian and obviously achieve all of that. But Brock has got that NCAA history as well. So, of course, they've got this in common, and they're like training together and everything. And there was some really, really funny vignettes. But there's one that, again, when I was doing the research for this, there's one where I went back and rewatched it. And there's a lot of those kind of YouTube videos that are like, you laugh, you lose. I don't know if you've seen those, but they just compile funny moments, and if you laugh, then they got you, kind of a thing. But I watched loads of WWE ones, and they weren't funny. They just weren't funny.
Yeah. I like preparing for this. I searched funniest moments in wrestling, and just going through the list, I was like, these weren't funny.
No, they're not. They're not funny. I mean, I think they might have been at the time, maybe,
Yeah,
but you kind of go back now.
Rose tinted glasses.
Plus, also, if someone says this is going to be funny, you're already off to a loser. I mean, there's no way this video is going to be a success because people are going to click on this going, they've told me this is the funniest moment. This better be funny. This better be entertaining. It's not funny at all.
It's even sadder than last week's episode.
That's right, yeah. This is going to be an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I went back and I watched one of those videos and nothing was making me laugh. Nothing was landing with me. Apart from this one clip, which really made me laugh out loud. And it is so simple. All it is you've got Kurt and he's backstage and he's got this massive jug of milk. And he just starts drinking it as Brock Lesnar walks in. And all he does is he slaps him on the back, but slaps him so hard that he ends up spitting all the milk out. So he's drinking this milk, he gets slapped on the back by Brock Lesnar, and straight away, all the milk's out. But the camera pans over, and there was just this poor woman that was stood there, absolutely drenched in milk. She is absolutely covered. And you can see straight away Brock starts like corpsing. He can't hold it in. Like Brock already is like already starting to go. Kurt Angle sells it really well. He looks absolutely horrified. But it was the reveal. It was the way that the camera just panned across and you've got this poor woman just standing there. I will splice in for those that watch this podcast on YouTube. Of course, I'm going to put the images up of that. But if you've not seen that moment, it's absolutely brilliant. I do remember seeing like that clip. It is quite a famous clip, so I have seen that clip before. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because of that point. I've watched a lot of those You Laugh, You Lose, and nothing was landing. But that one, it's so simple. Some of the best humor is simple.
Yeah. And to go back to accidental stuff, I don't know how funny this is for me. I thought it was hilarious. Whatever WrestleMania that was, where it was like Mojo Rawley against Jinder Mahal. How could I forget? WWE champion back before he was champion, and they were doing that little thing with Gronk, and Jinder like got all up in his face, and Gronk was supposed to go over and enter the ring area, and the legitimate
woman.
Security guard was like,
Yes!
"No, sorry, stay back."
I forgot about her. That was brilliant. Because he knew that he had to get in the ring, and he was like trying to explain, but obviously you can't explain. No, it's all right. I'm meant to, because you can't say that out loud. But then he doesn't really know what to do, and it's like, oh, it's so good, and it's on WrestleMania as well.
She's just trying to do her job.
Oh, that was such a great moment. Again, it goes back to I'm going to say this is our first rule of comedy, that the funniest comedy moments are the ones that aren't scripted and aren't meant to happen. We've already, even just at the start of this video, spoken about the Shockmaster. We've spoken about Titus World Slide, and we've spoken about this woman security guard that wouldn't allow Gronkowski to get into the ring, and all of them were not meant to happen. I got another one for you, right?
Oh,
and this
please.
is just completely off the top of my... We're just vibing now. We're just vibing. But do you remember, I don't know if you saw the clip, The Royal Rumble, when Batista and Cena both go over the top at the same time, and it wasn't meant to happen. It wasn't meant to happen. So they both go over the top at the same time. Vince McMahon is furious. He is furious about this. This was not the plan. So he comes storming down to the ring in his Vince McMahon way, comes storming down, jumps into the ring, but as he gets into the ring, he blows both of his quads. Both of his quads get blown out. And so all you've got is an angry Vince McMahon that's having to sit in the ring because he can't stand. He can't stand up. He's blown his quads. So he's having to sit against the ropes. He knows he's in trouble. And he's still having to stay in character. And he's having to sit there and be like... Rah, 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 and he's still having to have a go trying to figure out how to fix the match that's gone wrong. So, oh man, that moment is just brilliant. The whole thing is falling apart. The match hasn't gone the way that it was supposed to. Vince has come storming out, which wasn't the plan. He genuinely was angry. He legit blows both his quads. I don't even know how you do that. How do you do that? How do you blow both your quads at the same time? And it's not. None of this is storyline. This all happened. This is a thing that exists in the real world. So funny. And it not meant to happen. I wasn't even going to mention that.
Oh, I'm so glad you did.
Yeah, I'm glad I did as well. I can't remember what. I'm sure people listening to this are screaming what year that was. I can't remember off the top of my head what year it actually was, but so good. Oh, I am loving this episode.
Yeah, this episode's awesome.
I am loving this episode. We haven't even got to the scripted moments and some of the great moments that we can get stuck into. I've got a few jotted down here. Do you want to? Have you got one more you want to throw in?
I do, but if you could give me some time to
compile,
bring myself back after that. I kind of lost myself there.
Totally understand. Let's move on to let's stay on Royal Rumble. How about we stay on Royal Rumble since we were just talking about the Royal Rumble? There was a few friends of ours that listened to the podcast that recommended this. I want to shout out Miss Clown 1 who recommended this. This is R-Truth in the 2016 Royal Rumble. This is a moment which I didn't recall at first, if I'm being honest. I do remember him doing it, but I couldn't have told you exactly when it was. But R-Truth comes down during a Royal Rumble. This is scripted, right? And you know how R-Truth, who I think is one of the funniest superstars WWE have ever had, like, consistently funny. Looking at what he's done with the 24/7 title in recent times, but even going all the way back with Little Jimmy and the stuff he was doing with Little Jimmy. And here we are in 2016. He comes down to the ring during a Royal Rumble, goes straight under the ring, grabs a ladder, and I love the fact the commentators are selling this so well. They're like, what's he up to? And like they're like really building up what's he doing. Gets the ladder, chucks it in the ring. All the superstars just stop and stare at him as he sets this ladder up in the middle of the ring, looks around, starts climbing his way up the ladder, gets to the top, massive smile on his face, goes to grab either a briefcase or a title or whatever it is he thought was going to be suspended there, because he was under the impression this was a ladder match. So he gets there, and that moment where he's just like realizing what's actually going on. So good. It's so good. Because that was all part of his gimmick. He constantly kept getting the wrong idea about things, the wrong impression of things. It was so funny. That moment is one of my favourite Royal Rumble moments. But again, I'm so bad at telling you what year it was. I had to go back and kind of research that it was
fine.
2016. So again, I'll splice pictures in. But yes, 2016 is when he did that.
Who would you say is, in your opinion, the best comedy wrestler?
Who would you say?
Oh, you're throwing it to me.
Well, I'm throwing it to you because I I would say R-Truth.
Okay.
And I wondered if you had anyone that was different than that.
It's one of those questions where I ask without knowing the answer myself. Like,
Nice.
I think Chris Jericho's hilarious, but I wouldn't call him a comedy wrestler.
No.
Santino is really funny, but
good.
wrestling wise, he's not of the caliber of R-Truth, because R-Truth can kill it in the ring.
Oh, yeah, he can go. Yeah, you're right.
Not that Santino can't. It's just I haven't seen it. And then Joey Ryan, I think, is really funny. Same with the Young Bucks.
Joey Ryan is very controversial. So I'm guessing that you are a Joey Ryan fan. You like that style of humor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously he's got, I don't know what it's called, and obviously I'm very aware that we're on YouTube and we're family friendly.
His move.
His move.
Yeah.
I don't know what the move is called. Is it a penisplex?
No, it's called a U-Pornplex because he's sponsored by the
Is he?
adult film website.
I never knew that.
Yeah. They pay him so that he can
pay
call
him?
the move that.
So it's actually branded the U-Pornplex.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if we could make it onto YouPorn. You know, once we've conquered YouTube, do you think we could then try and conquer YouPorn?
Absolutely.
I want to conquer all of the U's.
We can come up with some really good titles.
Yeah.
And people will click on that.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what the content's going to be, but the title...
It'll just be this. It'll be so good. Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely thinking of something else, but...
Okay, we'll once we get to that river, we will cross said bridge.
Nice. That is such a deep... You come out with some of the best sayings.
Well, I've been watching a lot of Stargate.
Okay,
which
nice.
is probably why.
Nice.
And I'm an artist, of course.
So talk to me. You are going to know more about Joey Ryan than what I'm going to know. I don't know a great deal about indie wrestling. So again, that's your domain. So what is it about Joey that you've really enjoyed?
It's just sleazy. Comes out in his members only jacket with his pop, gives it to someone, and it's a bunch of dick jokes. And it's like, sometimes I just want to feel like I'm a 12-year-old that thinks dick jokes are the peak of comedy. There's also a guy named Johnny Cockstrong who as well does a lot of dick jokes. And it's like, some days...
That's all you need?
That's all I need.
Sometimes that's all you need. Whilst we're talking, right, can I just interject for a second here, because I've got something that's going to connect to this quite well, but it's actually going to take it back to the world of WWE.
That's very fine.
That's very fine. We need to talk about Triple H dressing as Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels dressing as Shane McMahon. I've got to shout out the likes of Sonny Wolf and Monica King. I think Nails and NY shouted about this. I know a lot of people shouted about this moment when we were talking about this the other day on the YouTube channel. People were suggesting this moment because I have gone back and rewatched it, and it is very, very funny. It starts with Triple H making his way down. So this is 2006. It's DX versus the McMahons. So DX start dressing up as the McMahons. Triple H comes out, first of all, as Vince McMahon, obviously making fun of the Vince walk as he comes down to the ring. When he gets into the ring, obviously he's doing a dodgy impersonation of Vince as well. I think he says something like, "I'm here to ramble and make no sense for the next 10 minutes. Just kind of making fun of Vince's promo style. And he says, he starts talking about the fact that you might remember that DX, because of course he's pretending to be Vince, you might remember that DX last week gave me a rooster And the reason why they did that was because they were making out that I love cocks. Well, I just want to let you know that I do not love cocks. I do not love cocks. I am a big fan of Dick Van Dyke. I am a big fan of the current Vice President, Dick Cheney. If anything, I love dicks. and it's just literally Triple H just really ripping into Vince McMahon. But what's really great is they keep building up, obviously, Triple H laying into Vince. And then out comes Shawn as Shane. So Shawn Michaels comes out to Shane's music, doing the dance and everything. He's like dancing around. And he's like, look at me, Dad, I'm dancing. And he's like dancing around the ring and everything, doing this like wacky impersonation. And they absolutely rip into them. And you've just got like Shane and Shawn dancing around. You got Triple H as well. It's a really, I could sit here and just talk about the whole segment, but that's just like a slight overview. I think it's on Raw or SmackDown from June 26th. 2006, if anyone wants to search that out. Or, of course, you would be able to find it on YouTube. Yeah, DX, I mean, if you're going to talk about some of the funniest superstars, and we've spoke about Joey Ryan, we spoke a little bit about Santino, we spoke a little bit about R-Truth, I think you've got to include DX.
And I got my answer. Toru Yano from New Japan. Hilarious. Everything he does, every time he's in a match, I'm like, yo, I know I'm gonna laugh. This is what I'm here for.
Give us some.
Oh, my camera. Whoa. That's comedy. Give some examples of what he. Every match he comes out, like holding a copy of whatever DVD he's trying to sell. He puts it right up to the camera. He's always like, he does RVD. He stole that. I don't know why. He always is trying to rip off the turnbuckle, and every match he does like the same thing. He's just a goofball. It's very basic comedy, but he does it extremely well. And it's New Japan, so the wrestling isn't bad either.
Yeah, I mean, that always helps, doesn't it? I mean, you can have silly wrestlers and comedy wrestlers, but I think it is important that they back it up in the ring, and that's definitely a strength of R-Truths, as we were saying earlier as well.
Yeah.
I really liked Breezango and the Fashion Files. They were always fun, and they could back it up in the ring. They could. They were a lot of fun in the ring. Do you remember? I don't know if you ever saw that one match. Now, I'm not going to say this is one of the funniest moments. This actually is one of the weirdest matches that I've ever seen. If ever we do weird matches, this might be something that gets mentioned there, but I'm quite happy to mention it here. They did a match, and I can't tell you the year. I believe it was on SmackDown, but it was a tag match, and they came out. They'd been sunbathing, or they'd been in a sunbed, and they'd been in there too long, or someone had locked them in, and so I think someone had locked them in. It seems like something the Revival might have done, but I know I'm a little bit scarce on details, but that's because I have not researched this. I'm just remembering it from my brain. But they'd been stuck anyway in the sunbed, and they'd burnt, and they came out, and they were all red. Like, they were all red, and they were like, and they were in actual pain as they were like making their way down to the ring, and then they had to try and wrestle this match. So of course there's a lot of comedy, like every time they even just get touched, like even just being touched, they're like, oh. And so they were like milking like the comedy. It is actually quite a fun little match, but it's one of the weirdest matches that I've ever seen, because I can't recall seeing too many people at the start of a match already being like deeply in pain. But yeah, they both came out and like they were like, ah! But I think that was from around about the same time. I want to say that was like 2017, somewhere around that kind of timeline. What have you got? Who have you got next?
Scripted segments. This guy, I don't know. I always feel like he's hilarious. I don't know if it's on purpose or he's just like, he's one of those wrestlers where I don't know if he's checked out, he has a super heavy accent or what's going on there, but the great Khali. And when he had to do that WWE shop video where he was advertising the products and he was just like, you had no idea what he was saying. I think he said like, me like cookie, and then held up like a Sheamus toy. And at the end of it, it was like the perfect cherry on top. He picks up John Cena's headband and goes, John Cena. And he puts it on his head upside down and just does that. And it's like it was scripted but unscripted because it feels like that's just who he is. And if you go on his Instagram, I think he still has it. It's just pictures of him just like this, random places. So it's the type of thing where I don't know if it's just him, or I don't know if it's him or the character.
I mean, look, the great Khali. Just watching him wrestle is funny enough, but yeah, he. He did have those wasn't he? It was the Punjabi Playboy, wasn't he? He turned into the Punjabi Playboy.
Yeah.
It's kind of incredible because when he first came in, he was this monster, very similar to the Giant Gonzalez. But again, I mean, look, there's another example. The Giant Gonzalez from WrestleMania 9. He came in as a monster, but how funny was his outfit? He had like muscles that were actually drawn on to his bodysuit, and then they actually stuck like bits of hair on his little suit as well. I'm sure when he first appeared on like the TV shows, you know, like Superstars, and I don't think Raw was around then. Raw started in 93, so Raw started around the same time. Might be like Wrestling Challenge and Superstars, things like that. I'm sure they did not put fur on his backside, and you can actually see they added like a crack for him. They actually drew on an ass onto his actual outfit, but then ultimately they would cover it with fur. But again, there's just little things like that are unintentionally funny. So the Giant Gonzalez, and as you said, the great Khali. Yeah, so good.
Not to make this about toys again, but you got an inside scoop with Bill. I know he said for a while that Great Khali would never come out with an Elite. Has that changed? I'm still waiting for my Great Khali Elite.
No, there's not. He's not under a merch deal as far as I know. So they did do a Great Khali basic. I'm just looking to see if it's at hand, but I don't need it because I can always splice a picture.
I have it.
You've got it as well.
Yeah.
It's.
I've always wanted an Elite.
But you've always wanted. What would you put with the Elite?
I don't know. It's just you can move his chest and his legs.
Oh, you just want the articulation?
Yeah, of course.
Maybe you could put all that WWE shop merchandise with it.
Yeah, I'll get my bud DG to do like an anime.
Yes.
That'll be so nice.
I remember I saw on one of those You Laugh, You Lose videos, there was a clip of him singing Happy Birthday to John Cena that's amazing. Yeah. Imagine the great Khali singing Happy Birthday. That was a funny.
And didn't they like once do a karaoke challenge or something? Are they the segments they did with the great Khali were so incredible. I know there was one time he was against 3MB and one of them takes out like a flute and starts doing some snake charmer thing because Santino's there and it's just like it's just so awful. It's hilarious.
Yes.
And that's a lot of WWE.
Yeah, that is WWE.
Those weird SmackDowns that aren't like for any big pay-per-view, or they're just filling time with these weird segments with a rivalry that no one cares about. Because let's get honest for a second, no one's going to remember 3MB versus Santino and Khali. That's not going to be in the record books, but it happened, and it was weird.
Have you been watching much of the current program?
Nope.
No.
But I have, I am a connoisseur of the channels of memes. So I did witness the incredible Stone Cold segment with the empty audience where he was like, "Can I get a hell yeah?"
Oh.
Empty chairs. And I thought that was so funny.
Oh.
Do you feel you hated
I
that?
hated that moment. Well, what I hated about it, I didn't mind the hell yeah, and then they show the empty chairs. That's all right. I didn't mind that.
You hated that?
Did you see the Byron bit? When Byron was holding up cards. So Stone Cold would come out with a line or a joke or something, and then they would cut to Byron, and Byron would be scoring it. Like,
Oh, I didn't see that.
oh, it's horrible. That segment, like, there's parts of it that you said was all right, where he says, "Give me a hell yeah." They cut to it, and it's just, there's no one there. I could that was, I think, the first week of them doing the performance center shows. But as that segment went on, Stone Cold would, I can't remember if he was telling jokes or if he was coming out with like some classic lines or something. But every time he would do it, they would cut to the commentary table, and then Byron would be holding up some kind of a score. It was so, when we do like cringiest moments, it was, oh, I feel ill just talking about it right now. It was not good. That bit was not good. But
I'm sorry to bring that up.
Oh,
sorry to have you live through that again.
Yeah, no, well, the bit that you mentioned was cool. But as I said, the Byron bit. Oh, the reason why I asked about the current product is because I genuinely think what Asuka is doing right now is really, really fun and perfect for now, for this generation, because she is doing a lot of like just funny little dances as she's celebrating. She's kind of backstage doing interviews. She's talking in Japanese, but then she'll throw in some English terms. So she'll be like, Naya Jax, easy peasy. But then she'll like dance off screen, and she'll go and she'll be like, she's so much fun, man. When she's on commentary, she is slaying it. When she's doing the backstage interview, she's slaying it. When she's in the ring and she's doing the little dances and everything. And again, just going back to what we said before, what a talent. What a talent. So not only is she funny, but she backs it up, man. Asuka, hilarious in 20.
Yeah, something happens in Japan, man. I'm telling you. I like their women wrestlers are incredible, but I'm going to continue on Japan. Yes. DDT. Have you seen anything from DDT?
No.
Which is like probably the premier comedy wrestling company.
Where is this company? Is it in Japan?
Yeah, it's in Japan. It's actually where Kenny Omega was. It was his big home before New Japan.
Is that where he fought the 9-year-old girl?
Yeah.
That was in DDT.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, right.
But yes, that 9-year-old girl. That is a video that I love showing my friends.
Right.
So one could say that is comedy, but I was once watching a show. This is like the segment of the podcast where good luck finding the picture of this. It was like a ladder match for a woman.
I'll get on it now. Hang on.
In marriage, and it was so funny because it was like, I don't know what was going on. Dude's pants were falling down. It was weird. But the best part for me was there was a guy whose gimmick was he was a boxer. So he was wearing boxing gloves and stuff. And he climbs up on the ladder to reach up and get the contract to marry the woman. But because his hands were in the gloves, he physically couldn't grab onto the thing. So he was just standing there like that. So, I was just like, this is so dumb. I love it.
Was that intentional?
Yeah.
It wasn't unintentional.
No, it was 100% intentional.
Okay, cool. That's class. That's class.
Yeah.
Having him trying to grab hold of it. I just quickly had a look then. I ain't finding that picture.
I'll see what I can do, but yeah.
Maybe it's on a clip and then I can just take a still from it or something, because people are definitely going to want to see that. Definitely going to want to see funny. That. No, I've not heard of DDT in Japan. I might have to check that out. And they're still going and everything, are they?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're still going right this moment, but yes, they're still around.
Well, no, I should imagine they're watching this.
They're watching this?
Yeah, they'll be watching this. They won't be doing a show right now. They'll be watching this. So.
Okay, sick. Sick.
Right, let's move on, shall we? Because I can see that time is ticking away and there is one moment in particular that I absolutely want to mention, got to mention.
All right, let's roll on out with it.
This is regarded as the funniest moment. If ever you do, like, if you go to like What Culture or you go to Bleacher Report and you look at their countdowns of funniest moments, this tends to come out at number 1. And I'm kind of milking this so that people in the chat right now can fire in their thoughts. People that are listening along can fire in and start thinking about, I wonder what it is. I wonder what.
Yeah, all those people listening to us on Apple Podcast, we're killing it over there.
Yes.
So thanks to everyone.
Shout out to you, Tim Cook. Shout out to Steve Jobs. Everyone at Apple. Eric Ives, what was his name? Who was the designer guy? He was someone. It doesn't matter. Right.
Milking it.
This is your life, Rock and Mick Foley. This is your life. This is from, I believe it was the 8th of March. And this is such an iconic segment. Because you've got, this is your life. So you've got Mick Foley in the ring. Obviously, you've got the whole Rock and Sock connection. I think, if my memory serves me right, Mick Foley was trying to apologise to The Rock. I think that there'd been a slight altercation. I think like the night before at a pay-per-view or something along those lines. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I think this was a form of an apology. So this is your life. And he brings out like former teachers, former like gym instructors and things like this. And The Rock has only got bad things to say about them all. And The Rock's recalling when the teacher would put him into detention and stuff like this. And so The Rock's like telling the teacher to know your role and shut your mouth and all this. But of course, the crowd are so invested in it. And it's wonderful to watch because Mick Foley just constantly just keeps trying to bring people out, trying to surprise The Rock and trying to make The Rock happy and try to please The Rock. And it kind of builds up towards the end where there's even a clown. This woman that's dressed as a clown kind of gets involved as well. And Mick Foley's trying to, make The Rock happy any way that he can. And it all, backfires and fails. And it's just this big, glorious mess of a segment. But again, it's one of those that is constantly regarded as the funniest segment, the best moment. I'm not sure, to be honest, it's mine. I like the unintentional ones more so than the scripted ones. But WWE gets scripted comedy wrong so many times. This genuinely was one of those occasions where they really did get it right.
And that's why it's so awesome.
Yeah. You've seen that?
Oh, of course not. No.
Okay.
No, I read Mick Foley's book though, and he talks a lot about it. So I feel like I've witnessed it, but no, I have not actually. And while we're doing this, I'm thinking, yeah, I should probably go watch that right now,
Hey, well, look, that's in many ways what the podcast is all about, isn't it? It's kind of about people that want to, relive some of those moments, or maybe discover some new moments that they've not seen before. So there might be a lot of people that are listening to this and watching this that have never seen that moment, and now there might be a good chunk of people that go and check it out. Same with what you was talking about earlier with DDT and Shockmaster, and
I don't know if it's age appropriate, but yeah.
I do want to touch on Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Because
I think if you're going to talk about comedy in wrestling, then I genuinely think the funniest overall person would be Bobby the Brain Heenan. He was so witty on commentary. In fact, the 1992 Royal Rumble is regarded as one of the best pay-per-views of all time. And it's regarded as one of the best pay-per-views because of how many big names were involved that year, but also because of Bobby's commentary. He's firmly on the side of Ric Flair. He really wants Ric Flair to win the Rumble, so he makes no secret about that. So all throughout, he's just talking about how great Ric Flair's doing, is putting down everyone else that's in the Rumble, keeps saying that they're not being fair to Flair, and all this kind of stuff. But his lines are so witty. He's come out with things like Stu Hart. Stu Hart has trained all of his kids, the Hart family. Only 3 of them use the litter box now. And it's just like little things like that. It's just, but he thinks of them off the top of his head and just drops them in. Like he was saying things like, heard a rumor that that wrestler's mom and dad actually ran away from home, and just stuff like this. Talking just all this stuff that he thinks off the top of his head. His relationship with Gorilla Monsoon and a lot of the back and forth that they would do throughout the years on commentary and when they were hosting shows is some of the funniest stuff. Some of the funniest stuff. Even as a manager, and he'd like get involved, and I remember like he lost a match to the Ultimate Warrior and he ended up having to be put into a weasel costume because they used to call him Weasel. So there's this great match that he has where he gets beaten up, of course, and then he ends up getting stuffed into this weasel costume, and it's just watching him come around. So he's out cold, and when he comes around and he's like, all dazed, and then he looks down and realizes that he's in this costume in the middle of like Madison Square Garden or someone, and he's like twisting around trying to take it off, trying to get to the zip, and he ends up falling down. There was a lot of slapstick that was involved. It's timeless comedy as a result. A lot of his stuff is timeless stuff. You didn't need to know anything about the wrestlers at the time. A lot of his lines were very universal, and a lot of his comedy as well. Just really, really good stuff. Have you've seen a lot of Bobby Heenan?
Unfortunately, not as much as I'd like to have. Probably like a few minutes tops.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I have an ocean of opportunity ahead of me.
Have you ever actually sat down and watched like the '92 Royal Rumble?
No, but it sounds like I got plans for this weekend.
Dude, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. I think it's a really great match as well. It's regarded as one of the best ever pay-per-views because, I mean, everyone loves the Royal Rumble anyway, but it's like out will come Hogan, out will come Undertaker, out will come Ultimate Warrior, out will come British Bulldog, out will come... Do you know what I mean? It's just Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer. There's just hardly any jobbers in that match. So it's just like it's like your dream Royal Rumble. But then what with Bobby Heenan on commentary as well, it just absolutely elevates the whole thing, makes the whole thing so much bigger. One of my all-time favourite pay-per-views. When we get to doing the episode on favourite pay-per-views, spoiler, that is getting mentioned. That is getting mentioned. Although I don't know when we'll get round to doing that because the topics and the suggestions for future episodes are coming in thick and fast.
Then I'm hyped. I'm hyped.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Was there any other ones in particular that you wanted to make sure got mentioned in this? I've got another couple. Only quick.
Take yours. My list is ended.
Okay. This was recommended by the Insiders Wrestling podcast. Big fan of those guys. They recommended the obviously one of the most iconic moments is the feud between Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. So again, I didn't get a chance to actually find out the date for this, but I'll splice it onto the YouTube video. But you might remember Mr. McMahon being in hospital. And he gets visited by Stone Cold, and Stone Cold, like the two of them are actually brawling in a hospital. You're not meant to call it hospital. I think you've got to call it a medical facility. So they were brawling inside this medical facility. But Stone Cold actually grabs the bedpan and at one point smacks Mr. McMahon over the head with the bedpan. And it makes this really satisfying thudding noise. You know, the kind of noise, you know, when a billionaire gets smacked over the head with a metal bedpan. That kind of really satisfying sound. So, yeah, it's a really, really fun moment. Kind of similar to that as well, Mick Foley goes in and tries to cheer up Mr. McMahon as well. That was also a great moment. I remember he was doing a little puppet show and everything. I think he brought a clown in to the room as well. So Mick Foley's had some great moments throughout the years. And we haven't even spoken about The Rock. I mean, some of the funniest moments ever have included The Rock. I know we touched on the "This Is Your Life" segment, but some of his lines, I always loved when he would ask people, what do you think about this? They'd go to, it doesn't matter what you think.
So simple, but so effective.
Such a great line. Such a great line. But yeah, throughout the years, you know, he's come out with some really, really witty lines, and not someone that you would say was like really a comedy character, but definitely had it in his arsenal. Brilliant on promos. Brilliant on promos. But I mean, look, we could sit and just chat forever on this subject. I would love to talk about SummerSlam. And did you ever see the SummerSlam match between Shawn and Hulk Hogan? Let's end on this, because this again is sort of unintentional.
Great.
And
it's like a circle.
It's a circle, and
it's poetry, man.
I'm all about this. So this is Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan. And the build for this was great as well, because Shawn was making out that Hogan was an old man. And I remember there was even some promos that Shawn did where he dressed as Hulk Hogan. And actually, again, there's so much comedy there. You've got like DX when they dressed as the Nation of Domination. That was absolutely fantastic. Again, I'll splice that image in so people can see DX dressed as the Nation of Domination. Shawn dressing up as Hulk Hogan and kind of like, yeah. And he was like making fun out of him. And then he was like, oh, my back. And he was like making out that Hogan was old and decrepit. But when it actually got to the match, the original plan was that Hogan was going to beat Shawn, but then Shawn would get the win back and would actually beat Hogan further down the line. So Shawn was fine to lose to Hogan, knowing that Hogan would give him the win back. As they got towards the match, plans changed, and Hogan was not going to be giving Shawn that win back, and that really upset Shawn Michaels, as you can imagine, because now he's just being fed to Hogan. Now he's just losing to Hulk Hogan. So Shawn was really upset about this, and obviously he can't not do the match. So what he ends up doing is overselling absolutely everything. Hogan, will throw him into the corner, and rather than Shawn just going into the corner, he will jump up, flip over the ring, end up on the outside, and every single thing Hogan did, like if Hogan put the boot up and Shawn went into the boot, he wouldn't just fall down, he would stagger back to the ropes and flip over the ropes and fall to the outside. He was really making out that Hogan was just like this super powerful. How could I beat the mighty Hulk Hogan? You know, and he was just overselling absolutely. He was just being a child. But it is so much fun to watch. I really do want to try and watch that match again at some point on the network. It's absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious. So yeah, I don't know if you can class that as unintentional. Certainly wasn't intended on WWE's part. But that's how we got to it anyway. So, look, another subject that we're going to have to come back to at some point.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to talk about. But
so much.
It is what it is. We've got to call it a day. Anything else you want to chuck in before we say our goodbyes?
No, I don't know if that was last week or something. I said how I'm stopping by, so I'll say it again. Great audience on those Friday nights, and great audience to the people listening on Apple Podcast.
Yes, shout out to. I haven't ventured over there yet. I definitely want to. Yeah, it's brilliant just seeing the response and having so many people getting in touch saying that they enjoy listening to it via Apple Podcast or watching the premiere or even just catching up after. I mean, that's what's so great is that this content is intended to be enjoyed at any time. You know, that's why we do it this way. So. Guys, really, really, really appreciate the support, the ongoing support. It means everything to us. So thank you all so much for that. Hope you enjoyed this. This is genuinely one of my favorite episodes. I absolutely loved it. So thank you so much to Tommy Toy Travels for joining us. As always, don't forget to subscribe to Triple T, the YouTube channel. We're still on the road to 100,000 over there, so make sure that you drop that subscribe. We're going to get that play button for Tommy. It's on the way. Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. See you again next time. Bye for now.
I spoke over you.
That's all right. This is the comedy episode. It's funny.
True.
Let's just end like we're cool.
Cut.